aggression, greed, fear, and poverty, epithets characterizing modern Russia. On March 17, 2024, the presidential elections ended.
Elections?
Who won is not a question, sarcasm. As it's called,
Election day without choice.
You might think that people in Russia have gotten used to it, or even brought the country to such a state by remaining silent ones. Many even think that Russians themselves are to blame for the onset of the war, which was essentially started by the country, but in fact by one person, living in greenhouse conditions surrounded by sycophants. If you didn't know, since 2001, people have been protesting, but any opposition rallies have been suppressed, or opposition leaders have simply been removed, like Nemtsov. And not just anywhere, but in the heart of Moscow, where there are plenty surveillance cameras, but they were turned off during the murder. The latest precedent is the murder of Alexei Navalny, in a prison located in the most remote part of Russia, so far from lawyers and human rights organizations. A vile and low act, worthy of a weak person, which is what Grandpa Putler is. A major international crime, which I hope all the guilty parties will be punished for. Alexei instilled hope in Russia that the degrading totalitarian regime could collapse. Even after his death, he managed to unite people and instill hope that Russia could be a free and democratic country. The only question is when. Unfortunately, in today's Russia, a dictatorial Russia, a public active position leads people to a criminal terms made up out of thin air. Today, ending up in prison in Russia is much easier than seeing a doctor, of which there are fewer and fewer in Russia. The unprecedented mass immigration from Russia is evidence that thinking people don't want to live under the yoke of a war criminal, liar, murderer, and number one corrupt person. Why exactly thinking people? Because those who don't have their own thoughts and can't see beyond their noses have fallen for the hook of the massive Putler propaganda machine that began on the first days of his rule. It pains me to say this, but unfortunately, this systematic work on people's consciousness has not gone unnoticed. And from this propaganda, that patriots, or simply we call them that zombies, were born. I ask you, don't associate these growing bots with true Russian patriots, who are against the war but forced to leave the country to avoid prison. True patriots of Russia are fighting on the side of Ukraine for the liberation of the country from the authoritarian regime. Dictators hold power with their sticky tentacles through repressions and intimidations, and such a method will sooner or later fail. Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini, Nikolai Ceausescu, Mao Zedong, Muammar Gaddafi, and Stalin. As we know, they all eventually perished, and many died violent deaths. Thus, history is cyclical. What do you think? Write your answers in the comments, and to be continued.